On a chilly afternoon, the kind of day when the city feels almost empty, a small art supply store stood in the middle of the busy street. Inside, colorful paints, sketchbooks, and art supplies filled the shelves, inviting creativity. But in the midst of this cozy, warm space, an uncomfortable moment was unfolding. A young girl, no older than 12, stood at the counter, holding a crumpled piece of paper in her hands. Her oversized jacket hung loosely on her small shoulders, a sign of the tough life she had endured on the streets. Despite her worn appearance, her eyes sparkled with hope, determination, and the dream of something bigger. The store owner, a man with a sharp tongue and an even sharper gaze, glanced at the sketch she handed him. It was a simple drawing of the city skyline, filled with intricate details. But instead of seeing the talent in her work, the man sneered. "This is what you call art?" he mocked, his voice echoing through the store. The words cut through the air, sharp and dismissive. For a brief moment, the girl's face dropped, her spirit shaken by his harsh words. But then, she lifted her chin, straightened her back, and looked him in the eye. "One day," she said, her voice steady but full of conviction, "someone will see this for what it really is." No one could have guessed just how true those words would turn out to be. What followed was a journey of resilience, unexpected twists, and moments of incredible transformation. Who was this girl? Why did her art matter so much? And how could something as simple as a crumpled drawing lead to a change that would inspire millions? Let's take a closer look at what happened next. Her name was Lily, a name that seemed to fit her perfectly. It was gentle, just like the way she saw the world, but it also carried a quiet strength, something she'd need to hold on to as life threw challenges her way. At just 12 years old, Lily had already experienced more hardship than most adults could imagine. The city was her world, and it wasn't always kind. Lily wasn't always homeless. Once, she had a warm home with her mother, who believed in her art. "Never stop drawing, Lily," her mother would say, her voice full of love. "Your art will take you places." Those words stayed with Lily, even after everything changed. When her mother became seriously ill, life began to unravel. Bills piled up, the lights went out, and soon, Lily found herself on the streets. Her mother passed away soon after, leaving her with only memories and the sketches she'd made with her. Now, Lily's life was a daily struggle. She'd wake up in shelters or tucked away under blankets in hidden corners of the city. The cold made her bones ache, but she never left her sketchpad behind. It was the one thing that felt like home, a place where she could create beauty, even when everything around her seemed dark. She loved drawing the city's skyline, capturing the lights and the tall buildings she dreamed of one day living among. To her, these drawings weren't just pictures. They were promises of a different life, a better life. But the streets weren't kind to her. Her sneakers were worn out, barely holding together, and her jacket, too big for her small frame, was a hand-me-down from a kind shelter volunteer. Most days, her stomach growled louder than the traffic around her. The world seemed to ignore her, but she held on to the idea that her art could change her life someday. She spent hours sitting in parks or at street corners, quietly sketching, hoping someone would notice her work. Occasionally, a passerby would stop, admire her drawings, and drop a coin or two into the cup she kept beside her. It wasn't much, but it gave her hope. Not everyone saw the value in her art, though. Some people dismissed it as childish or messy. Others didn't even glance in her direction, too busy with their own lives to notice the girl with the sketchpad. But Lily never let it discourage her. She kept drawing, believing that one day someone would see her talent and help her change her life. What truly set Lily apart, though, wasn't just her art, it was her heart. Once, when she had only enough money for a sandwich, she saw another homeless girl sitting nearby. Without thinking, Lily broke her sandwich in half and offered the other girl a piece. "We all need a little hope," she said with a soft smile, and that moment of kindness stayed with her long after. There were other acts of kindness too. An elderly man, noticing her sketches, gave her a set of colored pencils. "Keep creating. The world needs more beauty like this," he told her. A busker, who played his guitar on the corner, once shared his earnings with her, saying, "Artists have to stick together." These small but meaningful gestures gave Lily the strength to keep going. Despite the hardships, Lily never gave up on her art. It was more than just a hobby. It was her lifeline, her way of seeing beauty in a world that often felt cruel. She kept the words her mother had spoken close to her heart. "Your art will take you places, Lily." Little did she know, those words were about to become more true than she could ever imagine. It was one of those bitterly cold winter mornings when the city seemed to freeze in place. Lily sat at her usual spot near Pine Street, bundled up in her oversized jacket. Her fingers were stiff from the cold, but she kept drawing, sketching a bird perched on a bare tree branch. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. Art was her escape, her way of forgetting the gnawing hunger, even if only for a short time. As Lily shaded the bird, a little boy wandered into view. No older than 6, he wore clothes so worn out they'd barely fit, and his face was streaked with dirt. But his eyes, those eyes, were filled with wonder. He stood watching her draw, his attention fixed on every movement of her pencil. "Is that a bird?" he asked softly, his voice trembling in the cold. Lily looked up, a bit surprised. "Yeah, it's a sparrow," she answered, smiling kindly. The boy hesitated for a moment, then sat down beside her, hugging his knees to his chest. "I like birds. They can go anywhere they want," he said, his voice almost wistful. Lily glanced at the boy. He looked thinner than she felt, his clothes hanging off him like they were made for someone much bigger. She thought about the sandwich she had bought earlier that day, a simple peanut butter sandwich, nothing fancy. It was all she had, but it was enough to share. She paused for a moment, then stood up. "Wait here," she said, rummaging through her bag. She pulled out the sandwich and handed it to the boy. His eyes widened. "For me?" "Yeah," Lily said softly. "You need it more than I do." The boy hesitated for just a moment before grabbing the sandwich. He tore into it hungrily, as though he hadn't eaten in days. Lily watched him, her own hunger forgotten for a moment. It felt good, better than she expected, to give something to someone who needed it more. "Thank you," the boy mumbled, crumbs sticking to his lips as he smiled up at her. "You're welcome," Lily said, smiling back before picking up her pencil and continuing to sketch. As the boy finished the last bite, he looked at Lily's sketchpad. "Can you draw something for me?" he asked shyly. "Of course," Lily replied. "What do you want me to draw?" The boy thought for a moment, then said, "A house, a big one with a red door. That's where I'd live if I could." Lily's heart ached as she sketched. She imagined a home, a place of warmth, safety, and comfort, and poured it into her drawing. She added a chimney with smoke curling out, flowers lining the path to the door, and a bright sun in the corner of the sky. When she was done, she tore the page out and handed it to him. "Here you go. Your house," she said with a soft smile. The boy's face lit up. "It's perfect. I'll keep it forever." He clutched the drawing to his chest like it was a treasure and stood up. "Thank you," he said, looking at her with a wide grin before running off, disappearing into the busy street. Lily sat there for a moment, watching him go. Her stomach still ached with hunger, and her hands were still cold, but she felt lighter, somehow. The boy's smile had warmed her more than any meal could. That simple act of kindness, giving away a sandwich, drawing a picture, had created a moment of connection. It reminded both of them, in that fleeting instant, that even when the world feels lonely, there's always someone out there who understands. What Lily didn't know was that someone had been watching. A woman sitting on a nearby bench had witnessed the entire exchange. She was well-dressed, her sharp eyes softening as she observed Lily's generosity. "That girl," the woman murmured to herself. "There's something special about her." What Lily had done wasn't just a small act of kindness. It was the beginning of something much bigger. Something that would change her life in ways she never expected. The next morning, Lily returned to her corner, unaware that a single moment was about to alter the course of her life. The sun was just rising, casting a golden glow over the empty streets, and Lily sat down with her sketchpad, ready to capture the beauty of the world in front of her. Today, she was drawing a small flower pushing its way through the cracks in the pavement, a symbol of persistence in a place that felt too hard to survive. As she focused on the delicate details, a shadow fell across her page. Looking up, she saw the woman from the day before, the one who had witnessed her act of kindness. The woman was standing there, holding a steaming cup of coffee and a paper bag. "Good morning," the woman said, her voice warm, almost like she'd known Lily for years. "I hope you don't mind. I brought you something to eat." Lily was caught off guard. She hadn't expected anyone to come back to her corner, let alone this woman. But the familiar, painful hunger in her stomach made it easy to accept. "Thank you," she murmured, grateful but a little shy. The woman sat down beside her, watching with a gentle smile as Lily took a bite of the warm muffin from the bag. "I saw what you did yesterday," she began, her voice filled with admiration. "The way you helped that boy, even when you didn't have much yourself. That was extraordinary." Lily blushed, shrugging slightly. "It wasn't much. He looked like he needed it more than I did." The woman smiled, clearly moved. "And that's what makes it special. Not everyone would do the same." The conversation took a turn when the woman pulled out a sleek business card from her purse and handed it to Lily. "My name is Eleanor Harper. I run an art gallery downtown. I couldn't help but notice your sketches. They're beautiful, full of emotion. Have you ever thought about showing your work to others?" Lily blinked, stunned. "Me? No. I just draw to pass the time." "Well," Eleanor continued, her tone encouraging, "I think the world needs to see your talent. If you're interested, I'd love to feature your drawings in a small exhibit at my gallery." Lily stared at the card, her mind racing. You really think my drawings are good enough?" Eleanor nodded confidently. "Absolutely. There's something raw and honest about them. They tell a story, and I think people will connect with that." Lily felt a surge of doubt. She had spent most of her life feeling like an outsider, an invisible girl whose dreams didn't matter. But something in Eleanor's words sparked a flicker of hope. Could her art actually lead her somewhere? "I don't know how I'd even get started," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper as she looked down at her sketchpad. Eleanor placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Leave that to me. You focus on creating more of your beautiful work. I'll handle the rest." For the next few weeks, Lily poured herself into her drawings with newfound purpose. She sketched the life she saw around her, children playing in the park, street musicians, the sparrows that had always fascinated her. Each piece felt like a part of her story, a reflection of everything she had endured, and a glimpse of the beauty that could still exist in the world. When the day of the exhibit finally arrived, Lily stood outside the gallery, her heart pounding. Through the large glass windows, she saw her sketches framed and hanging on the walls, bathed in soft lighting. A small crowd had already gathered inside, admiring her work. Eleanor greeted her at the door with a smile. "Are you ready?" Lily took a deep breath, nodded, and stepped inside. As the evening went on, people approached Lily, praising her talent and asking about the stories behind her drawings. One couple even bought a piece, a sketch of the house with the red door she had drawn for the little boy. The joy she felt in that moment was overwhelming. Not just for the money, but for the recognition. For the first time, Lily felt seen. By the end of the night, she had sold several pieces of art, enough to buy herself a warm coat, a good meal, and even save a little for the future. But what really stood out wasn't the money. It was the sense of belonging, the feeling that her art had touched others in a way she'd never imagined. As Lily walked home that night, clutching the small bundle of cash and Eleanor's promise to feature her work in future exhibits, she looked up at the stars. For the first time in years, she felt like she was heading in the right direction, a direction that offered something she hadn't dared to hope for, hope itself. Her journey wasn't over, but this was the moment that marked a new beginning. And she knew deep down that this was just the start of something extraordinary. Lily's journey to new beginnings. Lily's exhibit at Eleanor's gallery was just the start of a transformation she hadn't dared to dream about. The word about the young artist who once sketched on the streets quickly spread through the local art community. People were drawn to the honesty in her work, how she turned simple, everyday moments into something meaningful. Her art spoke to something deeper, something people could relate to, and that made her sketches special. A new chapter. The studio. With the money she earned from the exhibit, Lily found a small sunlit studio. It wasn't much, peeling wallpaper and cracked floors, but to her, it was perfect. It was a place where she could finally focus on her art, without the distractions of the street. The studio became her sanctuary, a space where she poured her soul into every drawing, every line, every shadow. Eleanor kept guiding her, introducing her to influential collectors and gallery owners. Lily's confidence grew with each new connection, but she stayed humble, remembering where she came from. She worked tirelessly, refining her craft while using her newfound platform to support other struggling artists. The Big Break, a city-wide exhibition. Months later, Eleanor invited Lily to be part of a larger exhibition showcasing emerging talent. Nervous but excited, Lily worked on a new collection that felt deeply personal. Sketches of people she had met on the streets, moments from her past, and emotions she had carried with her all these years. Each piece was a piece of her journey. The exhibition was a massive success. Critics praised her ability to capture the resilience of the human spirit. One reviewer even described her work as a reminder of the beauty in imperfection and the strength found in vulnerability. For Lily, the biggest surprise wasn't the praise, it was the connections her art sparked. One woman came up to her after the exhibit, holding one of Lily's sketches, tears in her eyes. "Your work reminds me of my daughter," the woman said. "She's been struggling to find her way. Seeing what you've accomplished gives me hope for her future." Lily's art had stopped being just her story. It had become a beacon of hope for others. Giving back, teaching, and mentorship. With newfound stability, Lily knew she had to give back. She started offering free art classes at a local community center, hoping to provide children and young adults with a safe space to explore their creativity. Many of them, just like her, had faced difficult lives, but she saw potential in each one of them. One day, a shy teenage girl named Emily approached her, discouraged and in tears. Emily loved to draw, but doubted her talent. "I'll never be good enough," she confessed. Lily smiled and showed her one of her early sketches, a crumpled, imperfect drawing. "Do you think this is perfect?" she asked. Emily shook her head, her eyes filling with doubt. "Exactly," Lily said. "But it was a start. And every great artist begins with a single line. Keep drawing, no matter what." From that day forward, Emily never missed a class, and Lily watched her grow more confident with each passing week. A full circle. The power of a simple act. As the years passed, Lily's reputation as an artist and mentor grew. Her art continued to evolve, capturing not only her own journey, but also the world around her. She remained connected to the community that had shaped her, often returning to the streets where she once sat for hours, sketching. One winter evening, as Lily walked through her old neighborhood, she spotted a familiar face. It was the little boy she had once shared a sandwich with. Now he was bundled in a warm coat, standing outside a bakery with a piece of paper in his hand. "Miss Lily," he called, running up to her. "Look what I drew." He held up his drawing, a simple sketch of a red door. Lily's heart swelled with emotion. "It's beautiful," she said, crouching down to his level. "You're an artist too." The boy beamed, and Lily realized how far they had both come. Her small act of kindness had come full circle. A lesson in giving, art's true power. For Lily, the journey had not only changed her life, but it had also planted seeds of hope in others. It was proof that even the smallest act of kindness could have an extraordinary impact. She carried this lesson with her every day as she continued to create, inspire, and give back. The true reward for Lily wasn't the recognition or success. It was knowing that her art had the power to make the world just a little brighter, one sketch at a time. The power of small acts. How you can make a difference. Lily's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the smallest gestures can have the biggest impact. Her journey, from a struggling artist on the streets to a recognized mentor, proves that acts of kindness don't need to be grand to be life-changing. What matters is the intention behind them. The ripple effect of kindness. Lily's decision to share a simple sandwich with a young boy set off a chain of events that changed her life and his. It was a small act, one that might seem insignificant to an outsider, but to the boy, it meant the world. And as Lali's life transformed, she was able to pass that kindness forward by inspiring other artists and giving back to her community. This story is proof that we all have the power to make a difference. Whether it's a word of encouragement, a helping hand, or simply offering your time, the potential to change someone's life is always within our reach. How you can make a difference today. So, ask yourself, what small act of kindness can you offer today? You don't have to wait for a big opportunity. Every moment offers a chance to make an impact, whether you're offering support to someone who's struggling, helping someone discover their talent, or just listening when someone needs to talk. Lali's journey shows us that no matter how humble our beginnings, we can rise and help others rise too. It's not about the size of the action, but the intention and the heart behind it. Reflecting on your legacy. As you think about Lali's transformation, consider your own legacy. How can you help someone else grow? What steps can you take to make the world a little brighter, just like Lali did? Her success wasn't just about personal achievement. It was about the impact she had on others. We all have the opportunity to leave a similar mark. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Let's keep the conversation going and spread the power of kindness, art, and the belief that everyone has the potential to make a difference. Join the conversation. We want to hear from you. How have you seen kindness change someone's life? Share your story in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation going. Together, we can inspire more acts of kindness, one small gesture at a time.